We mentioned the president will push Congress today to address the problem of student loans. Right now, interest rates are at 3.4%, and without action, those rates will double on July 1st to 6.8%. Now, the White House says the president's plan will save the average college freshman who borrows on average of $27,000 of $4,000. That's the amount of savings. Now, the White House also claiming the House Republican plan would cost that same student $200 more than if the rates rise to 6.8%. I'm going to bring in Washington Post columnist Ruth Marcus and the National Journal's hotline editor, that's Chief Reed Wilson. Thank you so much, both of you. Let's start with you, Ruth. The House passing a plan to link student loan rates to financial markets, something the president agrees with. But here's the difference. The president's plan would lock in rates for borrowers. The GOP plan allows adjustment, but then sets a cap. When you look at the data here, are these two sides really that far apart?
Well, it's unclear whether they're far apart, but one thing that is clear is this is a very hot button issue for a lot of people. As somebody who's got a daughter who's going to be a freshman in college next year, I can tell you that from personal experience. And the thing that this argument feels reminiscent of to me is not just the last time we had this threat about student loan rates, but a little bit the issue with air traffic controllers and the log jams. If there's one thing that Congress is responsive to, it's constituents who are well connected and loud, and this is one of those issues where people can be really loud about it. And so you're just going to see a jockeying for political advantage on both sides in terms of which deal is better. I think that to some extent, just as a political matter, the president may have the better of the argument in terms of you're going to have to pay more now. That's always that's always kind of a winner with consumers.
Well, Reed, listening to what Ruth says here, John Boehner, spokesman, echoing some of those sentiments, saying this is a way to change the subject from the growing list of scandals, saying, quote, picking a fight out of thin air where there's policy agreement isn't going to get the White House out of trouble, end quote. Is he right?
Well, this is certainly taking on a political element. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee today is launching newspaper advertisements in college newspapers in places like UNLV in Las Vegas, where Congressman Joe Heck represents that district, Clark College in Southwest Washington. Anyway, congressional college campuses all around the country that are in Republican districts. So this is something Democrats feel that they can claim a little advantage on. And let's not forget, too, that aside from minority voters and women voters with whom Republicans didn't do very well in 2012, younger voters, too, overwhelmingly backed President Obama and the Democratic ticket. So this is sort of a generational fight that at the moment Democrats feel like they have the upper hand on, and over the long term, Republicans are trying to repair these relationships with voters right in that age, the people who are either getting student loans now to go to college or repaying them after they've graduated.
Both sides having something to gain at the moment. Reed and Ruth, stay with me here. I want to bring in Congressman Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat from Maryland. Congressman, always good to see you here. You know, the headline on the Wall Street Journal editorial today, Obama student loan props. The president picks a phony fight over negligible differences. How far apart are both sides here? We were talking about just a second ago with our journalist panel. Is this something that can be worked out?
Well, Richard, I hope it can be worked out, but it should be clear this is not just political differences. There are fundamental policy differences between the two proposals, and there are two big ones. Republicans have proposed what amounts to a variable rate, so students would be on the hook and at risk for spiking interest rates. That means they'll have to pay a lot more and can't lock themselves into a stable interest rate, number one. Number two, the Republican proposal seeks to use the money from students, in other words, to hit students harder in order to help reduce the 10-year deficit. The president doesn't do that. He has a deficit-neutral 10-year plan, so he's not asking students to pay more to reduce the deficit. He's asking us to close corporate loopholes and other things to help reduce the deficit. So there are fundamental policy differences. I hope we can work them out.
Republicans are saying you're looking at a maximum of 293 basis points increase with the president's plan, 250 with their plan, effectively being very similar numbers here.
Well, you're talking about the one-year numbers, the next year numbers, but both the president's plan and the House Republican plan actually are like 10-year plans. I mean, they would change the way we deal with student loans over a longer period of time. And in fact, we should come up with a long-term plan. That's a good idea, but there are these fundamental differences that I just explained between the two long-term plans. And one would leave students very vulnerable to rising interest rates, and the other one would not.
Now, Republicans are also suggesting today's event, which we are going to go to, is an attempt here to try to change the subject from the scandals, the controversies, and not just Benghazi and the IRS. Here's what your colleague Luke Messer had to say. Take a listen.
The real threat to college-age students in America today is not a few more dollars on their student loan. It's the fact that the explosive growth of debt, the fact that the jobs in this economy for young people entering the marketplace have been the people probably most hurt by the Obama policies.
So the event that we're about to go to in about 13 minutes, is it designed to distract from other things?
Not at all. Look, if we don't fix this problem, starting July 1st, a big group of students is going to see their student loan interest rates double. And so we got to fix it. I mean, in fact, time is running out. The president actually has waited some time to sort of raise the stakes on this. He had his plan in his budget. But now we're engaged in this discussion, and I hope we can resolve it. But to suggest that this is an effort to distract attention from other issues is a bunch of nonsense, because if we don't fix this issue, people are going to be stuck with these higher rates in just a few months.